You're still watching The Pulse on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. Now, you could spend up to 3 years in jail for acts deemed to be discriminatory against persons living with HIV/AIDS. That's a prescription in the new Ghana AIDS Commission Bill 2015 passed by Parliament just yesterday. The punishment extends to persons who deny burial for persons suspected or perceived to be HIV/AIDS positive, as well as persons who disclose information that concerns the HIV/AIDS status of another person. We'll get details of this new law shortly, but first, let's hear the story of how fear of stigmatization is forcing some persons living with HIV to travel long distances just to get access to antiretroviral drugs from designated health facilities. HIV Ambassador Reverend John Azuma and some other persons living with HIV spoke to my colleague Maxwell Agwagwa.
Because of stigma, people are not taking the medicine close to them. For instance, people in Accra prefer to take the medicine in Koforidua because of still drugs.
Because they fear that when they live in Accra and they go and take it in Accra, somebody would see them taking the drug.
That is the stigma aspect. So look at the cost involved.
So they just travel long distances just to get the antiretroviral.
Very good. So that nobody knows them, nobody see them around. That is one problem. You go and there are no drugs. Now, apart from me not taking the drug, the health implication on me, because there's something we call continuous treatment. When you take the drug continuously, you suppress the virus down. But here is the case, you are not taking it. And when you stop and you start again, the drug does not work because the virus might become stubborn and might not. Yes, when the virus becomes stubborn, they don't pick up the drug, they don't listen again. So people will start the treatment now again, but they will not get healed as we want it to be.
So essentially what you're saying right now is that because they have not taken the antiretroviral drugs for some time now, it's possible their viral load have increased.
Yeah, what it means now is that people's virus will increase. When the virus increases, the virus will have something we call duplication. So when I start the medicine again, it doesn't work. That's what we are trying to say. That when I stop and I start, I stop, I start, it doesn't work.
Last week we went to a program. A mother was crying. 2 weeks more for her to give birth. 1 month she doesn't take the drugs, and she's crying. She's afraid that the baby will be infected. So we don't even know what to say before they will understand that we are taking the drugs. So we know what it takes. We know what happened to us if we stop. And sometimes, as my husband was saying, and you started again, you will not feel it well.
Interesting. Let me now find out from Reverend Azuma. How difficult is it, or how difficult or easy is it assessing the antiretroviral drugs? Because this drug helps in suppressing the viral load. How difficult is it?
Yeah, sometime in Ghana it was difficult, but to God be the glory, now it's very accessible. And once we test you positive, we refer you to a treatment center. And in Accra, we have a lot of treatment center close to our door. But again, because of stigma, like I said, you live around La, where we have La General Hospital, where if I test you positive in this hotel, the nearest place is La General Hospital. But once I introduce La General Hospital, people say, no, I won't go there. Because people, my friends, my family are close to the hospital. They might see me. So can you show me a different place? I will keep mentioning names till I mention a different region. So, okay, I prefer that region. I prefer Volta region. I prefer Eastern region. I prefer Central because nobody knows me there. So now the distance.
Did you face that initially when you were declared HIV positive? Did you also face that kind of stigma? And you also had cause to travel from one region to the other to get antiretroviral?
Yes, I know. Because at the time I was tested positive, there were no antiretroviral in the country. I was tested 16 years ago. 16 years ago at Tema General Hospital. At that time, no antiretroviral in the country.
So what were you using to suppress the viral load?
Even the doctor said that we are going to die. So we should go and, if you have any property, we should go and sell it. That is those days. So we're just living on our faith and some herbs, some septrin, and finally we hear that the antiretroviral has come at Kolebu. So we went to Kolebu and we were given, and lo and behold, now to God be the glory, we are looking good and fine because of the antiretroviral. So now it is happening. The people I do counsel tell me that they don't like treatment close to them. They like it to be afar where nobody knows them, and it's happening. And when that comes, look, the cost involved is a key thing. The cost involved. When pharmacies go on strike, you go and you don't get the drug, you come back. You go, you don't get it, you come back. So these are the issues why the stigma must come down. So my appeal to the public is that it is wrongful to stigmatize. It is killing to stigmatize. I'm HIV, you are not HIV. But we are talking from the same microphone. That does not mean you are going to be infected. No. So therefore, why are they stigmatizing again? Today is me. Tomorrow, it could be you. Well, you will never like somebody to stigmatize you when you are positive. So why do you do it to others? So we have to stop the stigmatization so that the centers that are close to us, people can patronize it.
Now, tied up, Reverend...
Well, the details of that new law we'll bring to you in just a moment, but the Ghana AIDS Commission, you recall, issued a disclaimer on any claims of a cure. Dr. Stephen AC is the programs manager there.
Data is concerned and the evidence, there is no cure yet. We've heard herbalists and other groups of people, recent ones in the media, claiming cure, but they themselves will admit that before a drug is declared as even a drug for a particular disease, it has to go through certain processes. We need to, first of all, apart from the test tube, in vitro test, check whether it can even be accepted by even animals first. Then after that, you take it to human beings. And even that there are different steps of the clinical trials. In coming out with a medication, you look at, apart from efficacy, which is its effectiveness, you are looking at its side effects, possible potential harm to the individual. Let me tell you now, if I pick Parazone, any antiseptic, and I put it in a tube with HIV or the virus, a few hours when I check, the virus will die. But I cannot extrapolate, therefore, that it is a cure for HIV. Therefore, I should give Parazone to individuals. That's why you go through a certain process. And before even it's utilized in a country, it has to be certified by the FDA. The recent claims, we have checked with the FDA, they have not certified or registered any medication to that effect. Actually, we as a country have given opportunity to even herbalists. There's a desk, Center for Research in Plant Medicine, the Ministry of Health, to subject all potential medications, herbal or whatever source, to a certain process so that at the end of the day, we can move it through and say it's a cure. So we are more anxious for a cure than every other person. So even globally in international conferences, there's nothing like that. Okay. And I want to establish that people make claims that South Africa and all that. If it was the case, they wouldn't even come here. The South Africans will capture it, and everybody is in a hurry to be a hero. All right, so there's no... Until you hear from the National AIDS Control Program, from the Ghana Health Service, the Ministry of Health, please, of the Commission, that there is a cure.
Successful, I must say, trial in South Africa, and I have interactions with those two people. First of all, I want to find out why wasn't it the case that we created a congenial atmosphere or a serene atmosphere for Dr. Duncan to go ahead with the trials here in Ghana, but he had to go all the way to South Africa to carry out the trial.
Nobody will prevent anybody from undertaking a trial in Ghana. You have to meet the requirements. They are standards. You have to go through certain phases. And the ethical review boards, Noguchi and all the people will make sure that you do that, because undertaking any trial with human subject has serious risks. In fact, which is why when you even discover a medication, you are made to administer it in your own country before other countries, because we don't want it to be used as a biological weapon. So
Okay, but John Hughes is in possession of a report of a research conducted by the Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research into a possible cure. Dr. Jacob Banner is a senior research fellow and explains the results of the findings.
Drug which we tested against HIV in the laboratory is
one of the processes that drug discovery goes through. You go through an in vitro system. If the result you get is promising, then you move to an in vivo system using either humanized animal models where the drug has not been used on human beings at all. But with Quadrag, before it's even brought to the lab, many people are on it. And results certified by doctors prove that it has enhanced their immune status. Their CD4 cells, which were low, now has risen up. The viral load, which was very high initially, has come down. Now, these two things play in bringing back infected HIV people to live normally. Initially, people were using the CD4 and CD8 counts as parameters to measure whether a person on any drug is doing well or not. But the viral load is the critical point that needed to be considered, because it is telling you how much of the virus we have in the person initially and how much it has reduced. Remember, HIV itself just creates immune deficiency. It therefore creates the avenue for other opportunistic infections to set in. And those opportunistic infections, when not controlled, will drive you fast into AIDS condition. Therefore, reducing the viral burden is critical, and Quadrag is able to do that.
Well, joining us has been speaking to China Ngubani, a South African HIV patient who was taking the COA72 drug during clinical trials in South Africa.
Good to know that I am HIV positive. That was in 2013, towards end of the year. That was in November 2013. So the local clinic in my residential area in Durban, Morningside, went and checked, and that was bad news for me that I was HIV positive.
So for the first day that you got that result, were you able to sleep? Like, how did you tell your family about it? Like, basically just share with us the experience.
Very difficult most of the times to see tears of a man. I had to just hold myself until I reached home. Fortunately enough, I wasn't staying with my family. I was alone. And as I sat down, I was in confusion. It was like, I'm entering a new world that I never know. It's like the end of my life. It was a defining moment in a negative, very, very negative way. It was a bad feeling, so to speak. Otherwise, one can never express it properly. 2015. This is when one of my colleagues, Bandile Mjalose, I work with her at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, actually came to me after having met a brother from Ghana called Alex Kwame Osei. And she said there's a brother that I met on a lecture, and he was actually on a seminar, and he was discussing or talking or presenting about a medicine called COA that can help ABC, immune boosting and all that, but with the potential, high potential of also even curing completely the disease, so-called AIDS. He requested for my clinical reports that shows that you are so and so, you've got they know the readings that they are looking for. So I presented to him, and he gave me a bottle of COA, and he told me how to use it. And brother, if I may tell you, I used it for just a week, one bottle, but one bottle could take you about 12 days. So that bottle, using the lid of the bottle as the measurement, I could see changes from day one. You see, with the ARVs, as I'm telling you, that was end of 2015. When beginning of 2016 is when he was just promising March, January, February, March. In March, yes, that's when we started the first process, which just took about 3 days of injections, but they were painful because they were right into the muscle, you see, and then, you know, in the morning, in the night, in the morning, in the night. Yeah, for 3 days, but it was painful, but it was really worth it because the results that we got I had before that injection, and the results that I got a week after that injection were quite different. What I can't quite forget is I had about 20 copies. I don't know whether is it the CD4 count or the what do they call them? The viral load. Yeah, it was 20 of mine on my sheet before the injection, the first injection, and a week after that injection, the viral load, you know, it raised up to some thousands. I can't tell you, but it was in thousands. So it was a shock to me to say, how come I was happy, I was sitting at 20, now I'm seeing thousands on the very same, whether it was viral load. And then he comforted me by saying, this is the process now and it's working. Why, if they inject if they inject you, the virus that hide actually comes out from their hide and they spread or they walk free in the blood vessels, meaning to say they are now exposed. So this is why after the machines or the testing, we could now read.
Right, so I'm sure that we've not had a last on this issue. There's more we will explore in that regard shortly. But we were talking earlier about that new law that could see you, if you discriminate against anyone living or perceived to be living with HIV, you could be jailed for 3 years. Let's get the details now. Head of our health desk, Fred Smith, joins me in the studio now. Fred, good afternoon to you. What details or provisions in the law help to address issues of stigma?
Well, Francis, we know that if you deny or exclude anybody suspected to be having HIV or somebody who actually has HIV or AIDS from accessing insurance, retirement benefits, or social security, or any other rights that may be affected, you can be prosecuted, and the ultimate will be a 3-year jail term for you. It can be less, but mainly since they want to crack the whip on discrimination, as we heard from Reverend Azuma, a lot of people will have to travel far from where they live to go and access treatment because people discriminate against them. And in some barbering shops, those who know are HIV positive are not taken care of. And so, yeah, they've come up with this law to try and deal with that situation. Now, the new law also frowns on discrimination against affected employee as well as institutions which deny educational rights to persons affected by HIV. So, for instance, if someone has HIV and they want to...
Let's say you're HIV and you go to Legon to go get a degree. If they deny you that opportunity because you're HIV positive, that's an infringement
the school will be taken on. I'm sure in this case, it will be the heads of the institution that will be dealt with. They will be prosecuted and they'll face jail terms. And the law, it will soon be signed by the president. It prohibits the denial of persons infected with the virus the right to be elected to a public office or the right to vote on account of HIV/AIDS status of that person. And so regardless of the fact that you have HIV or not, you don't have to be stopped from participating in the electoral process. Ultimately, whatever happens after elections affects you too. So you have the right to be there. And also there's another provision that if you live in a community and there's a designated place for burial, a cemetery, and somebody who is known to be HIV positive or is perceived to be HIV positive dies, and you prevent the family from burying the person at that location there, that also comes with some punishment. And you can be prosecuted. Also, up to 3 years in jail. The new law, the good thing is that they're creating a fund. You recall that when we talked about the potential cure for HIV, it borders on funding, so the research can be conducted so that we come to some conclusion we can have this drug. So yeah, there will be a fund, an AIDS fund, that will raise enough money for research and also to undertake campaign programs, and also to help with this mother-to-child transmission program that's being spearheaded by the AIDS Commission and the Ghana Health Service, Francis.
Okay, thank you so much, Fred Smith, for these details. And clearly, there's a lot to learn. It will be very good to see how the implementation will be done for this very good law and the kind of punitive measures put in place to deal with stigma when it comes to those living with the virus. We'll go for a short break. Now, when we come back, we'll do politics. This time, local politics. Domi Kwabenya is where we're heading. If you live in that area, you may want to grab a chair, sit down, and let's see what's happening in that constituency. One of the candidates gunning for that seat will join us. Your views and comments are always welcome on our social media handles. Let's get interactive.